This is David Hoffman, filmmaker, and I'm about to show you an extraordinary piece of video from 1996. So let's look at that time before I present this. It's a time when I'm making a feature-length documentary on aggressive rollerblading. Doesn't sound like the most interesting subject in the world, but it was back at that time. Amazing stuff. Loony. Going down these rails, using skates that were never designed for aggressive rollerblading, a whole new sport. And a colleague of mine hires me to make a feature-length documentary. And that documentary involves two teams, New York, great New Yorker street skaters, amazing stuff, and LA, the center of wealth and success and the whole LA skater scene. So it's a cold, rainy night in Los Angeles, and my colleague Andrea, who's producer, says to me, David, there's this poet who's going to be reading his poetry at a skateboarding, rollerblading shop. And the skaters were going by to listen to him. Set up my camera, and I set up the mic, turn it on, and you're about to hear Mike Vallely talk about his dad. So Mike Vallely is a skateboarder who is crossing the line and talking with rollerbladers. There's this huge nastiness, mostly from the skateboarders to the rollerbladers, who they call pussies and wimps. I never got that. But anyway, this guy, Mike Vallely, stands up in front of this audience and presents this story of his dad. And it is completely overwhelming to me. That's why the camera work isn't perfect. My dad and I had a somewhat similar relationship. It's just beautiful the way he says it. When this scene is over, if you're interested in who Mike Vallely is and what happened to him, I'll share a bit more with you. Mike Vallely, cold winter night, rainy, 1996, aggressive rollerblading.
He thought it was the greatest thing. Hey, I'm at home and I get to watch my TV programs all day and I'm in a bathrobe. It was like his first vacation in his life, and it was at his house. And I was glad that I came home for that. But even though I was there, and even though he was feeling better and he'd just been through this experience, not much had changed in our relationship. We didn't really have a line of communication. But I think we both knew that sometime while I was visiting New Jersey, that me and him would have to get together and talk. So there was this one night, he was sitting in the kitchen at the table doing nothing, just sitting there. And no one else was around, and I was walking through the house and I came into the kitchen and I saw him sitting there. I said, hey Dad. He said, hey son. And I sat down at the table and I thought, oh man, this is it. This is our talk. This is our heart to heart, And I didn't know what to say, and I could tell he didn't know what to say. But we both knew that it had to be done. And so he looks across the table at me and he says, so, son, how is that skateboard thing going? I said, well, yeah, it's going pretty good, Dad. Yeah, skating's going pretty good. And I said, so Dad, how is that heart thing going? Your heart, how's that? And he goes, oh, the heart? Well, she took a licking, but she's still ticking. I said, oh, yeah, good. And that was it. That was our conversation. That was our heart to heart. Didn't go so well. But I was thankful for it anyway. And like I said, I was in New Jersey for a month, and after a while, my dad seemed like he was doing pretty good, and he was about to return to work and such, and I figured, well, I got to get back to California and get on with my thing. So I booked myself a flight back. And the morning that I left, my dad drove me to the airport in Newark, New Jersey, Newark Airport. And we drove up there, and we pulled up alongside the curb there at the airport, and I get out of the passenger side door and he gets out of the driver's side door, and we both go around to the trunk, and he pops the trunk and he pulls my bag out and he puts it on the curb. And then there's this moment, and I wasn't ready for this. I go, oh my God, oh no, goodbye. This is goodbye. Something has to happen here. And I didn't really know what the procedure was. I didn't know how this thing was supposed to work. And so I pick up my bag and I put it on my arm, And my dad looks at me, and I look at him. I go, well, okay, Dad, we'll see ya. You know, we'll see ya. And I can't really look the guy in the eye. It's just hard. So I put my head down. I said, okay, well, we'll see you, Dad. And I put my hand out. I figured that's what you got to do. You got to shake hands. You know, this is how these things work. You shake hands, you say goodbye. So I put my head down, I put my hand out, and it just hung there. And he didn't shake my hand. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what's wrong? Why isn't he shaking my hand? So I slowly lift my head up and I look at my dad. And he's standing there with his head down and his hand out. And I go, oh shit. And he looks up and he goes, oh man. He goes, okay, well, okay. And he puts his hand out again, and I put my hand out again, and he starts shaking my hand. He goes, okay, well, have a safe trip and make sure you call your mom. I said, okay, I will. And it was a really, really hard handshake. I was like, okay, and I went to turn to leave, and he wouldn't let go of my hand. And I looked back at him, and I was like, Dad, my hand. My hand, Dad. And he was squeezing it. And he pulled me towards him. I said, what are you doing? He pulled me towards him, and he put his arms around me, and he held me. And at that moment, I thought to myself, well, all right, this is okay. This is good. So if I get a call in a week, in a couple months, 10 years from now, and it's my mom on the phone and she says, Michael, I've got some bad news. Your father's passed away. I'll be sad, but I could live with it. Because at that moment, although we didn't say anything, we were communicating something to each other that we needed to communicate, that needed to be put out there. And that was that we loved each other, and that we cared about each other. And, you know, I never had a really good relationship with a guy, and I still don't really have all that great of a relationship with him. It's still pretty much the same, but I have that moment, and it means a lot to me. And I consider myself a lucky guy because I've got friends, people that I know that weren't so lucky, that didn't have an opportunity to have even that kind of experience with their dad. Either they never knew their dads, or their dads died before they could ever have that kind of experience. So, like I said, I consider myself really lucky. And I wrote this thing, and right now, my dad is in bed, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, East Coast time, he's getting up and he's going to work. That's what he does. That's what my dad does. So I wrote this for my father, and I send this out to him, and hope that he's having sweet dreams. This is called Father. You work your whole life just to get by. You work your whole damn life till the day you die. 4 mouths to feed besides your own, but you always brought dinner home. And when I saw that distance in your eyes, I felt your compromise deep beneath my bones. Some good deals turned bad, and from under you the rug is pulled. I saw you hit the ground. I saw you taken down. I watched you unfold. And man, this world don't stop. It wouldn't for you, and it won't for me. I watched you pick yourself back up and do what you had to do. And that meant everything to me. Dad, you've made me a proud son. I respect you immensely. They stole away our time. They slaved you for every dime. But still, you always walked a straight line. Now you've got the roughest hands I believe I've ever felt. And physically, your heart is bad, but with all the love it has loved me well. Now I've got a family of my own, and there's so many miles in between, but they're bridged by this gift you have given to me. And I promise to do my best and keep my priorities straight. You showed me how to be a man, a father and a husband. And Dad, I just want to say thanks.
So Mike Vallely was not only a professional skateboarder, but he was a rock musician, songwriter, poet, clearly, has a blog with his daughter, a very creative guy, started several companies. You can look him up. And what I really want to do at the end is thank him for sharing these beautiful moments with me, totally unexpected. I never used a piece of it in the feature film. It just didn't fit. But I'm really glad that I could present Mike Vallely and that evening to you now. Thank you.